range to filter through this land of ours and fill a sportsman's dreams. Enjoy what nature holds for us, her bounty never ends. Getting back to basics with the practical sportsman. It's always an adventure, no matter where we go. From a favorite hunting spot to the hottest fishing hole. Outdoor life we all can share with family and friends. We'll do it all together with a practical sportsman. We'll do it all together with a practical sportsman.
Hi there, come on in. Here we are in the end of the third week in March. I tell you what, spring is officially here, which is great news because there's all kinds of spring activities ahead. I mean, whether it's sucker fishing or trout fishing or turkey hunting or clay shooting, whatever it is, I tell you, I am ready to do it. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next half hour. I'm Fred Trost. You're watching The Practical Sportsman. First of all, you have to be sure that turkeys are in the area. If they aren't roosting near where you're hunting, you might not ever see one. Scout the area by looking for tracks, scratchings, feathers, and check fields as you drive because turkeys often feed out in the open. Ask the locals and check with the local DNR office. They usually have a pretty good idea of where the turkeys spend their time. But if you're not hunting where turkeys are, your chances of being successful go way down. To locate where turkeys roost, call in the evening. They're using a gobble or an owl or a crow call. Oftentimes they'll respond and give you a good idea where to start hunting the next morning. For turkey hunting, you need a full suit of camouflage clothing. Turkeys have eyes with incredible resolution. They see tiny movements and see colors much better than you can. A head net and gloves aren't mandatory, but the more camo you have on yourself and your equipment, the better off you'll be. Now, you're going to want to set up a blind or at least nestle yourself against some natural cover where a turkey is least likely to see you or your outline. Chances are you'll move during the day from one hunting spot to another, but when you stop, find a hiding place. And as you sit and call, try to stay as still as possible, and if a turkey is approaching, freeze. Like I said, a turkey's eyes are incredible. They can detect the movement of a minute hand on a clock. They can see the blinking of your two eyes, which would be similar to the blinking eyes of a fox or a coyote or an owl, which are the major predators on wild turkeys. You want to make sure your gun is ready and pre-aimed before the turkey appears so you don't have to move when he's in front of you. Next on my list of turkey hunting strategies is to hunt all day. Turkeys tend to stop calling mid-morning, but they're still active, moving and feeding throughout the day. My trophy book analysis of the times trophy turkeys have been taken show that most are taken the first couple hours after daylight. Now, I'm sure one major reason is that most turkey hunters quit after the first few hours because turkeys aren't very vocal. But don't be fooled. Turkeys don't bed down. They're still very active, just much quieter. Now, calling is important, and you should learn to use a box call at least, but don't worry about winning a contest. A basic mimic of a hen turkey can draw a gobbler in. In the wild, hen turkeys have a variety of voices, and their calls are made in a variety of patterns, so don't be intimidated by turkey calling. Another technique that can be very helpful is using a decoy. Some gobblers will be attracted to that decoy, running in and even attacking or trying to mate with it. But even if the decoy doesn't draw it in like magic, a decoy will distract most gobblers, which will take the turkey's attention off you. That gives you as a hunter a bit of an edge. Now, when you're moving through the woods during the day, be conscious of the places where turkeys are likely to move. Now, they're not likely to move up hills, across wet areas, or through thickets. So if you're going to stop and rest, stop in the areas where the turkeys are going to come through because they move constantly and can be back at any time. Naturally, you want to make sure your shotgun is going to be effective for the distance you're going to shoot. Pattern your shotgun to determine the maximum distance you can get at least 4 or 5 pellets in a target the size of a turkey's head. Usually 30 or 40 yards is going to be your maximum range. And finally, if you're after a trophy gobbler, study the trophy book data of successful hunters. Their methods are proven, and following their patterns can improve your odds. Turkey hunting isn't terribly difficult, but it is terribly exciting. That's why so many hunters become addicted to it.
down right here. I'm going to go up here, right to the corner of the pines.
It's the brink of daylight, opening day of Michigan's spring turkey season. It's a lousy morning, actually. The wind is blowing in the open fields. It's been raining on and off. Normally a day that would shut turkey activity right down to nothing. But Bob Garner found a roosting area, and they're coming down. Bob uses a mouth call to sound like a hen turkey clucking. And listen to the response. Normally the toms gobble and the hens come to them. But sometimes the toms will walk quite a distance to look up a lonesome hen. Finally, Bob Garner spots a single tom coming our way.
John, there's a bird coming straight ahead of me. To the left.
With the mouth call in place, Bob isn't too articulate.
Be still, be very still.
A few clucks might bring that tom towards us.
He's on that little trail.
The black speck in the distance is the gobbler walking down the two-track. See how turkeys avoid thick cover? They like the open, easy paths where they can see and run if they need to. Some toms gobble a few hundred yards away. This is typical turkey behavior. The tom that appeared to be walking down the lane, coming to Bob Garner's calling, steps off in another direction. You notice that Bob doesn't call very much or very often. When a turkey's in sight, it can easily pinpoint where the call is coming from, and its eyes can detect the slightest movement, even your eyes blinking. Oh, this anticipation, calling and talking to gobblers is what makes turkey hunting such an absorbing activity. And now they're coming close. Now it's two toms once again walking down the two-track. They're looking for that hen that Bob is imitating. They gobble to attract that hen over to them. They know a hen was around here someplace. They avoid crossing the field. They're used to the hens coming to them. They're not going to come directly to us. Bob is concentrating so intently on these turkeys. He's so totally absorbed he's in a different world. In a moment, you're going to see him react to a branch that rubs against him. He thinks it's an animal trying to crawl up his arm. If you've been hunting like this, you'll recognize the feeling. Now the branch hits his arm. Well, that broke his concentration for just a second. But back to the turkeys. Now let's be real quiet and don't move. This is turkey hunting at its finest. Your heart is beating hard. You're breathing hard. You don't dare move. Bob doesn't dare call, or their eyes will be pinpointed right over towards us. The problem now is that Bob got caught with his gun down. If he moves it up to shoot, they'll spot the motion, they'll duck and run. I mean, they will disappear. When they gobble, they're not as alert. So Bob gives a call to try to get them to gobble. they'd gobble just once, Bob could shoulder the gun and get a good shot. A perfect shot. Like chickens in the barnyard that run around with their heads cut off, turkeys always flop on the ground for a moment, but it's already dead. That's always the goal when you take a shot, either a clean miss or a good clean kill.
Look at this, John. Whoa!
Cameraman John Ford was every bit as excited as Bob.
I'll tell you, that's about as excited as I've been on Bob.
Okay. Well, you know what the amazing part of all this is, though? I mean, I don't want to be too philosophic, but god darn it, the year I was born is when these birds were planted. Before that, hunting wild turkeys in Michigan was just kind of a dream, you know. Nobody ever thought they'd be able to do it. And here we are.
First place we come to.
Small bird, great eater. Let the guys who've never taken a big one shoot the big ones. Yeah, I'm proud.
Well, and Bob should be proud. Controlled hunting is good conservation. Michigan's wild turkey flock began with hunters' moneys trying to restore a flock that even hunters thought would never be anything more than a token number of birds, a flock for people to see, but nothing that would really grow. The birds have spread like wildfire, though becoming problems in some agricultural areas. Each spring, a limited number of tom turkeys are harvested by hunters, providing terrific meals and continuing the tradition of a Thanksgiving hunting heritage in Michigan outdoors.
Upstream, it looks like a picturesque river flowing through a small town, and it is. It's the Bear River spilling out into Little Traverse Bay at Petoskey. Just before the river goes under the last highway bridge, there's a spillway. In April and May, below this spillway, anglers congregate because that's where the steelhead trout congregate on their spring spawning run. Now, most fishermen either stand on this bridge or they fish along banks downstream from the spillway. But some anglers, not too many, don't mind fishing the fast water below the spillway from the concrete shoreline that's a fair distance from the water. Now there's 3 fellows here, one with a steelhead on, the other 2, they're going to work as a team to land that fish, presuming, of course, that the fish doesn't break the line before it's netted. Now, you can't fish water like this in the traditional way, especially from a break wall. You have to keep the rod tip down because you want the fish's head to stay down. And you hope that it faces into the current instead of drifting downstream with that tremendous flow of water. But the strategy worked. The netter on his belly has done his job. He hands the net handle to the other guy, who lifts it up over the railing, and the lucky angler got his steelhead. But he couldn't have done it without a good netting team.
Second one?
This is a male steelhead, darkly colored but with a characteristic rainbow down its side. This water is not easy water to fish, but most anglers stay downstream a little ways. Ones who fish the bridge know they have to leave the bridge and walk along the bank to net their trophies. Now, Louis Malik from Petoskey is one of those bridge fishermen.
Am I having any fun? Sure. I'll try to hold him right in this pool here. Ah, he's gone. So much for that.
Well, you gave it a try.
Well, steelhead anglers don't mind losing fish. You know, in fact, they lose a lot more than they catch. That's just the way it is when you fish for big fish in fast-moving water like this. Lines break, you tie on more hooks, more sinkers. It's a constant process. And I have to be honest, it drives me nuts. But steelhead fishermen have to be among the most persistent, most patient, most dedicated anglers in the world. If they're not losing their hooks and rigs in the rocks and underwater wood piles, they're catching fish that have to be released for one reason or another. This fellow has a nice little steelhead on, but he doesn't want little steelhead. This is the ideal way to release a fish. Take the hook out while it's still in the water, let it swim away untouched.
I'll get you started anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's the second one I got like that.
Oh, is it?
I had another one down here about 13 pounds, a big female, and she fell off just like it was going to take her toward the beach.
I might as well tell you this is not a typical day of steelhead fishing. The trout are biting like crazy. Everybody's hooking fish. But it's only the skilled anglers or the ones with good help on the net who are landing them. David Lloyd from Onaway is one of those young, nimble, skilled steelheaders.
You getting tired of this yet?
Oh no. I enjoy this. It's a way to spend a day off. Nice female.
There he goes.
Dave heads down the rocks. Not an easy way to go, especially at the speeds you sometimes have to travel to keep up with these fish. Dave has no net, and he looks around for help, but nobody is there. So what happens? The fish gets in the current and snaps the line. But Dave Lloyd isn't upset. He's used to this. That's steelhead fishing. Now, what are these anglers using for bait? Well, not spoons or spinners. They're all using rather small hooks tied into spawn bags. Now, this is actually steelhead spawn in a little mesh sack that attracts the steelhead to strike. Now, it can be cold in the spring. Many fishermen use woolen gloves with the fingers cut off for tying knots. Up about 2 feet from the hook is a sinker, like this, or maybe split shot, to keep the bait near the bottom, which is where the steelhead lie. Now, the bait doesn't have to be real either.
All I'm using is just a little single wireless pom-pom that kind of imitates a single egg, and so when I'm floating it down, fish thinks it's an egg and wants to have something to eat and grabs it, and I hopefully have something to eat.
Show them the technique now. Show them how you do it anyway.
What I do is I just take it up and float it in that white water there, and a lot of times the fish are laying right down in the low, so you kind of put some weight on there, try to get below the thing, and every once in a while you get snagged up on rocks.
That would have been pretty good if you would have done that on cue.
That would have been real good.
You know, I have to admire these steelheaders who take constant snagging in the rocks in stride. Now, that would drive me buggy. But like I said, steelhead fishermen are patient because they usually get a lot of strikes and have a lot of chances of catching rather large fish, anywhere from 10 to 15 pounds. The young ones like Dave, they risk their ankles and legs on these rocks. Now, he's on his own, he grabs a net, and the footing is precarious to say the least. Sets the net down again. Now, he's not sure when that steelhead will come in close to be netted. Maybe now. No, maybe not. Well, now the fishing is getting a little tired. Doesn't want to battle the current, so it lets itself drift downstream. And if Dave doesn't want to break the line, he has to follow it down through the rocks and around the snags. A well-intentioned but not extremely adept netter tries to help and almost loses the fish. Now watch Dave's two-handed technique on the rod. Now that's a sign of experience. He wants maximum rod control at a time when the fish is in charge. Two hands manipulating the rod up and down to follow the fish's movements, that keeps pressure on the fish solidly, but not too tight. More fish are lost at the net than any other place. The fish shies away, or the net actually knocks the hook out of its mouth. One of those things happened here in the swift water, but Dave Lloyd takes it in stride and jumps back to get in the action. On the bridge, another angler has one hooked. Turns out to be Louis Malik, once again, a local from Petoskey. He lost a steelhead earlier, but now he's got another one on. And who has put his rod down to pick up a net to help a fellow angler? None other than Dave Lloyd. This guy's a real sportsman. Now, he knows that he can net the fish better than many of these fellas. He's learned the technique, he's quick, his eyes and reflexes are good, and he knows fish behavior. So Dave waits and makes his move, and Louis Malik becomes a successful steelheader at last. Now, I don't think these two know each other, but they're brothers of the fishing fraternity.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
That's called camaraderie.
Well,
Congratulations.
Yeah, finally caught something.
Is that your first one today?
Huh?
Is that your first one?
First one I caught, yeah.
Well, I saw you lose a couple.
That's a fresh one too, Luke. That's nice fish. Beautiful, isn't it? Yeah.
Fantastic.
John Ford is having a great time behind the camera. He's chatting with fishermen, getting their trials and tribulations on tape. Now, this guy isn't sure what he's up against.
Right now. Get down below the rabbits, it's all over.
This steelhead is a nice one and is apparently running out of gas fighting the current under the bridge, so it relaxes and drifts downstream. But look who's on the net. It's our young, experienced, quick-handed David Lloyd. Well, he can goof up a netting job just like anybody else, especially when the conditions are rough. But to Dave, fishing can be fun whether you're on the end of the rod or on the end of the net. And it's all critical. It all takes skill, and a little luck now and then never hurts either. Now, see how the angler is paying out line, letting it slacken up a bit? He wants the fish to move over across the river to a slower pool, and by giving the fish line, that fish is likely to turn its head towards the current and move into that pool, which is what it does. Now let's see if after all this work, they'll land the fish, or it'll break off like so often happens.
That's cool. Yeah, that was a heck of a net job there, partner. Thank you. That's a heck of a net job. It's caught well.
Well, Dave has helped a number of anglers land their fish, and you'd think his turn is coming up soon. Now, let's see if this net man does the job, or if Dave loses another one to that fast current and jagged rocks. Yes, the fish is in the net, but there's a slight problem to an angler like Dave who follows the rules, and that is this fish wasn't legally hooked.
What does that make? That makes the second one, but he's hooked foul, so we gotta get him back.
John Ford said this wasn't just grandstanding for the camera either.
Right in the fin.
Now, these anglers weren't snagging. They were good sportsmen, and this steelhead went back. Keeping a fish that's foul-hooked can get you some healthy fines from conservation officers, and while you will see fishermen who keep foul-hooked fish, you'll also see some of them ticketed right on the river.
Oh, well, maybe next time. Maybe next time.
Now, that might look easy, but to any of you who are my age or older, know that boulder jumping and rock running is an art in itself, requiring agility, balance, stamina, but this is what you have to do to catch steelhead in rivers like this. And I've got to admit, it's a little too much for me. This kind of steelheading is more of a spectator sport to watch, something the young guys find challenging and worthwhile. Now, you can see a net chasing Dave down the bank. Somebody's trying to be helpful. But to be a netman in a situation like this means you've got to crawl over the rocks at breakneck speed and even get in front of the angler if you can, anticipate the fish's moves. And you can see right here, bless his heart for all his good intentions, the netman almost muffs the job and loses a nice steelhead that Dave has worked long and hard to land. Finally, Dave grabs the net and makes the final scoop. There's an angler who deserves this fish, a nice silvery steelhead, fresh from the Great Lakes, hooked fairly, and it'll make some mouth-watering fillets on the grill, which is why so many anglers converge on the Bear River in the spring. Fishing isn't always this good. In fact, this was an extraordinary day that no one predicted. John Ford captured steelheading the hard way, and Dave Lloyd from Onaway finally got the well-deserved prize he was seeking.